Hello, everyone. I'm Meredith, and I'm with the Brahma Kumari's meditation site called our series, as many of you probably already know, is Conversations with Friends. I'm here to introduce you to a new friend, a relatively new friend, but we became very connected pretty quickly. I would say Ari a few months ago, right? Ari is how can I say, oh, she's so much. Ari Urban is an amazing violinist. She is with the new Deco Ensemble, which is, of course, getting so much attention in South Florida for all of the work, the extraordinary musical work that they are doing now. And they call it genre bending and transformative. And as a violinist, she is amazing. And we're also here to talk about something that's, of course, very connected to meditation, and the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Center is healing through music. And that's what Ari has been doing. I'm not sure for how long, but I know she's extremely committed to concerts and programs to help people heal through her violin and her music and her love for healing and helping people. So Ari, I'm thrilled to be here with you.
I'm so thrilled to be here with you, Meredith.
Yeah, and I just want to share the story quickly. With you about how we did meet. Was I went to the concert, the new Deco concert, and that was the dress rehearsal, and I go quite often because I just love what you all are doing in Miami, and I hope everybody will come to one of those concerts. They're often sold out, even at the Arch Center. And somebody that I know, our good friend Charlotte, I had told her that I'm into meditation, and she says, oh, you have to meet Ari. All of a sudden, there's not intermission, you took a break because it was a dress rehearsal. All of a sudden, you come running down the steps from the stage. And you said, oh, I want to meet you. I want to meet you. And I said, I heard about you. And we didn't stop talking. And then until, of course, you had to go back because they had a big concert coming up and they were rehearsing. So that's how Ari and I met. Ari, first would like for people to see what you do. Okay, we're going to give them a minute of what would you call it? Your healing through music programs, which are quite not just inspiring, but they really do create change in people when they do come to your concerts. And your concerts or your programs even have been taking place this summer. We're in Italy, right? That's pretty cool, huh? So Ari, let's just take a look and then we'll come back and talk.
Great.
Just beautiful, Ari. And I didn't even want to stop, watching you and listening. And I actually feel different as a result of just sitting here. I feel really calm and really like in that zone. So tell me about what these programs to do with mindfulness, which is of course connected to meditation, mindfulness and music that you have created. And again, you travel all over doing such programs. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Thank you again for having me. My heart is bursting with gratitude and deep appreciation for our connection and for this conversation we're having. So in a nutshell, I was turned on to mindfulness when I was 20 because I started experiencing performance anxiety seemingly overnight when I was at the University of Miami. And I was in a high pressure situation, so and unfortunately there weren't direct tools around me that could really help me calm my nervous system and calm my mind and while before going on stage. So I took John Kabat-Zinn's MBSR program. That was my first introduction to mindfulness. That was a decade ago. And I was hooked. I was hooked. I was always interested in psychology and personal development in all areas. So fast forward 5 years, I was in the Civic Orchestra of Chicago working with our musical director, Yo-Yo Ma. And during a conversation that he was having with Theaster Gates, who's an incredible artist in Chicago, they were speaking about the role of the artist in society and how we can influence our communities with our art form. And I had already been feeling the pull to combine music and mindfulness, but I hadn't actually created anything yet. And it was through that conversation that they had that the light bulb moment happened. And I got to have some time with Yo-Yo Ma to explain to him what I wanted to do, combining mindfulness and music. At that time, it was actually to help my colleagues with audition nerves. So creating a 4-week program so that they could really feel like they had the tools they needed to be as calm and resilient on stage as possible. So that was in 2015, actually, that moment. And then I started creating that program. And then I met my current partner in my startup, Music Free My Heart, about 4 years ago, Carolyn Barron. And we had this idea to combine our skill sets to create what is now called Music Free My Heart. So what we do is we use music as the object of meditation to allow people to experience the direct vibrational healing effects that music inherently has within it. So, of course, using mindfulness to calm the mind so that the mind is quiet and we're not interpreting, we're not judging, we're not thinking about the music, but we're actually allowing it to hit our heart center, to hit our vibrational nature as humans directly, and therefore bringing a deeper sense of intimacy with oneself and with all of the different parts within us and our emotions and our thoughts, and allowing music to just use it in a more conscious way to utilize the healing effects that are already inherent within music.
That is beautifully said. And I just want to share that my own experience in television, having worked for PBS my whole life, when I started meditating quite a few years ago, I did find I was doing a live show at that time. I found that when I went on to do my interviews, I was much calmer and more relaxed and didn't have that feeling of script, it had to be scripted. And I saw a big change in myself. So I do know, that it is a sense of feeling. I don't think I was aware that I could call it performance anxiety. I mean, I'm not, of course, I wasn't a musician doing, something so great music, but I would, have that kind of a little edge before I went on. And often, I didn't feel so relaxed. So this can, in a way, I'm thinking what you're doing is really just changing the way people experience, the way they feel, and that the outcome is just, it's really, it's an amazing thing because you don't have to do much. You just suddenly be. You don't have to be thinking, right, about what's next, what you have to do. It just, does it come, are you more in flow?
Absolutely. When we just finished watching the video, I heard flow state. Like we both immediately just dropped into a flow state. And the beauty of this work too is just the scope. I mean, it can serve so many different people and not issues but subjects, you know. Like I work with the young musicians in the new Deco Youth Orchestra with mindfulness, and that's incredible. And so I think what's exciting for me is to have these two tools that are so incredibly vast in by nature separately, and then bringing them together. And being an intuitive person and an empath, I think I have so much fun being in front of different groups and naturally allowing the guidance to come depending on who's in front of me and what I feel would be most beneficial for them.
Mm. So I bet you have seen a lot of lives change, right? I mean, I'm sure that many musicians, and I actually attended a program some years ago where they showed it was actually the New World Symphony, where they actually did a whole demonstration of what the stress that musicians are under, especially when they have to do their auditions, right? And
Right.
going through, and they're always auditioning, I think, for different, jobs and everything. And I mean, I would think when you're living in that state of tension, and like you say, you're going to perform, and there's this nervous feeling, you can't be at your best, can you?
No, and with that being said, I will say I think there's a very natural human response to being, you know, having a little bit of nerves before going on stage or before being in any public setting where, you know, the spotlight's on us. I think so. There's a fine balance I'm finding where I think in the past my goal was like, okay, my goal is to like never be nervous again in my life and just to always feel zen. And that's just not the reality, right, of living in the world. And there are so many conditions and factors that are always playing into our day-to-day experience, and that's constantly changing. So I think I've been I've been integrating a lot more grace and compassion for the parts of me that still do get nervous before I go on stage. You know, and then I can work with those parts by actually acknowledging them and not trying to repress them or judge them. Like, why are you still here? I mean, so this is a lifelong journey for me for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful. So really what you're saying is you're helping others, but you're also helping yourself. Do you feel like your performances are a lot better? I mean, do you feel like, wow, they're beyond, there's something greater in a way, the way you perform now than maybe
Definitely.
you did years ago?
Definitely. I mean, in full transparency, there was a point in my 20s where performing had become so painful, not only physically because, you know, there are physiological things that
Mhm.
happen. So, for example, my right arm would just completely freeze up. So I could always pass, you know, the audience never knew per se that I, you know, was experiencing like a lot of tension in my body, but my love and my passion for the joy of performing was starting to decline. And that's when I started looking into more somatic healing therapies as well, because I do believe that we carry every experience we've ever had in our bodies, and then if we're speaking about karma, it can get really, you know, kind of crazy. So
Complicated, very
yeah,
complicated.
very complicated. So with that being said, it's yeah, it's a really humbling journey now, because it's a humbling moment for me because my joy of performing has completely returned, and that sense of freedom and passion has returned on stage. So I'm very grateful for that. And if I can help others, yeah, overcome that, then I
Do you
feel
feel lucky? Like you're just so lucky to have received, this help earlier in life, and we're more at the beginning of your career than maybe
yeah,
struggling along for years. And then probably a lot of people struggle and then they give it up, right? They just can't take, like you say, the tension or the fears, and or sometimes maybe people even sedate themselves, right? Because they have to
right.
no, for sure. I don't know that, but
Oh,
I
I
would
mean,
think if a
for
person's really
sure.
nervous, and they have to calm themselves down. And for you, it's like you say, oh, it's just this is another beautiful day, and you're here to give to the audience. I want to
Right.
ask you something because you said, you're now doing this with the new Deco Ensemble and doing workshops, and you had done one with a group of students a while ago. And I know too that the artistic director, who you know quite well, and the conductor, together he's both. He's also kind of on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Giacomo Byros, right? And so that's got to be very interesting that you have, you know, a violinist and you have the artistic director on the same page. You feel like the energy has changed with the orchestra, or do you see it changing
I
because of this
do.
attitude? There are people there kind of sending out those vibes like you are and he is.
Definitely. It's super exciting to feel the general amount of receptivity that continues to increase in the collective in general. But absolutely, I mean, the openness of the young musicians specifically, their openness to receive new ways of thinking about things or experiencing the music, even if yeah, and again, it's everyone experiences it in their own ways, and I'm always celebrating that. You know, everyone's going to have their own individual experience, and being a meditator and someone who considers myself spiritual, I think the faith component is so important. And just to go back a minute to what you were saying about how that I do feel lucky because it was very early on in my career that I basically it didn't feel like I had a choice, to ignore the anxiety because it was so prevalent in my experience. And I do believe that some of our biggest hardships can literally turn into our biggest blessings. And in that way, I can't take credit for the gift I have with the violin. Like that was there, and I'm super grateful for that, and also for that experience at age 20 that propelled my curiosity to pursue my own healing that continues. And then through healing myself, I get to just share that with others. And I think the power of vulnerability and storytelling from a personal level is also cannot be underestimated, because then it gives other people the validation and permission and acknowledgement that they're not alone in their experience. And I think there are a lot of people that experience the depression anxiety access a lot, and I'm here to do my part to normalize that and celebrate our humanity in its fullness.
You're doing it. You're definitely doing it. I wanted to read something about how you received a Knight Foundation award in 2020, right? So the art of being human, cultivating self-compassion at the intersection of live music, guided meditation, and sound healing. Is that something different that you did, that you got this award or
Yeah,
grant? What
yes. So
was that? Yeah.
that was inspired evidently during the pandemic and when we were all quarantined, and it was just such a perfect moment when I learned about that grant, because it allowed me to think about what would be my ideal solo offering, just me by myself. What could I offer based on the skills I have? And that was it. It was like, okay, we can combine the intuitive music that I'm already doing with some guided meditation and sound healing to not only create a different type of concert experience, because that was kind of the prompt, like how, given the world, how do you reimagine the concert experience going forward? And I was really reflecting on the power of presence of every single human, and their energetic presence in a space does make a difference, right? So instead of an audience member just going to a concert and feeling kind of invisible, or like they're, whether they're focusing on the music or not, just that tendency to be like, okay, I'm here just to watch this concert. I wanted to create this idea of an experience where everyone's fully aware that we are co-creating the experience, and through our presence and where we're focusing, and that we can go on this inner journey together as a group and then share at the end, in the hopes of having some cathartic moments of, again, people sharing aspects of the human experience that we're typically not taught to just share openly in society, and that's where it comes back to the piece of normalizing our shared vulnerability and humanity to create deeper connection and community.
So we're connecting not just with ourselves, but we're connecting with each other. I didn't share this, but you know, when I had been to one of your concerts of the new Deco Ensemble last year, I think it was, when it was before the Beatles, before Abbey Road. I was watching, didn't know anything about you all except that you know, I know somebody who a friend of mine is she's the aunt of the cellist, and she invited me to go, and I think I've gone a few times, but I was sitting there at the concert and I was just really feeling some kind of spiritual energy coming through the concert. I really did. And that is kind of got me more interested in the concert. And I really didn't know until things started to happen and I met people, you know, there, including you, that I realized that do you think in a way it is this spiritual energy? You don't need it. Ideally, you want everybody or as many people that are interested, but it just maybe takes one or two people to get the ball rolling, to get this going. And so something is changing. Is something shifting, would you say, in the performances just as a result of a couple of people like you? And
I love that question. Yeah, because I'm seeing like just how energy works, right? And there is a vibrational kind of domino effect that starts to happen. And I'm also thinking about the rhythm section, only because they're, you know, four of those guys are the ones who write a lot of the music with Sam, but they're also master improvisers. You know, they're incredible jazz musicians. And so I'm also realizing that I think another part of the energy you might be feeling is they even, you know, they wouldn't consciously say, oh, I'm being spiritual, but their connection to spirit, to all that is, whatever we want to call it, as they're channeling their own solos and music, definitely adds a different frequency.
yeah, we're really talking about, you know, real deep change, as you were saying earlier, where it starts within, you know, it starts with the soul. And I mean, just to me, this idea of just more and more people, maybe that's kind of what's kept me going too all these years, you know, reaching more people that are interested. Again, it's not about converting. It's not a religion. Well, I always say, we say it's a religion of peace, you know, of inner peace. That's the religion doesn't matter what religion we come from, you know? And I feel, would you say that's in a way what you're doing is you're really kind of, what I get from you, I know, I'm pretty sure, but I'll ask you is, you're really on a mission, and yes, to perform, to be a great performer, which you are, and also, you know, to spread this, you know, experience of peace and really well-being that everybody that's in that room, including the audience, is experiencing, and the performers, they're all experiencing a sense of real well-being.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if I like the idea of being a peace ambassador is like incredible. Like that idea, that thought excites me so much because in a nutshell, you know, in this moment on the planet when so many things are changing that need to change, and there's so much activism happening in the external physical world, the way I look at the work I'm doing and the work that any spiritual seeker is doing is something I like to call inner activism. So when we are exploring different parts within ourselves that may be, you know, at war with one another, or certain parts that reject other parts, like we all have this inner dance that's constantly happening, right? Based on our life experience and the way we perceive ourselves. And so I see this work as inner activism that then leads to outer activism. So that as soon as we, not as soon, but the practice of cultivating that inner peace is of course going to influence the way we connect with every single human in the external world. And that's, I think I'm on a mission to legitimize the importance of the inner work, you know, and with through the lens of immense grace and compassion for oneself, because I really believe that is a crux that is not spoken about enough. You know, if we can learn to soften with ourselves, and it is going to influence the way we relate to others, and over time will create a ripple effect that is more long lasting and more real than just trying to control the external.
sometimes, yeah, we often beat up on ourselves. We're more compassionate to others, and
Right.
we're not thinking about ourselves. You've got it all together, you know? I mean, you're using your talent, your desire, your pure desire, your passion to really bring a sense of well-being to, all that you meet, to these musicians and to others, right? Because when you travel around, as you were in Italy, it wasn't all musicians, right? I don't think.
No, none of them were music.
Others, you do these concerts, and they're all about, this whole mindfulness, and the work that you're doing is absolutely amazing. So I think we're just going to be seeing more of you and hearing more about the work that you do. And I'm pretty sure that the new Deco Ensemble is going to really change as a result too, because the more people that get on the same wavelength, magic happens, beautiful magic happens. And you are definitely a magician and a musician, creating magic. Ari, we could talk all day. I know, you're just really special. And I wish that everybody could meet you, people who are kind of cynical or don't really believe in these things. I think they need to spend a few minutes with you, hear some of what you do,
That's so
watch
kind.
your videos or hear you perform. But thank you so much for joining me.
It's
I really,
a pleasure.
thank you. It's been a pleasure, really. I'm very inspired as a result of getting to know you. And thank you. And I want to thank you all for joining us. And I want to thank our technical director, Amar Murillo, who's stepped in this week, in the last couple of weeks, to help out while Mita was away in India. She's returning, but I'm sure we'll see Amar again soon. Thank you, Amar.